Hello from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. This is Youth Express. I'm Larry Berger, our executive director and founder. And in a minute, I'm going to be joined by John Bindley of our staff. And together, I hope we're going to be able to show you a little bit about what we do here in Pittsburgh to amplify youth voice. One thing that we want to do plenty of today is share with you some of the different things that youth make, both here in our studios where we're filming from, but also out in the field. And I thought I would begin with a commentary. This was just recorded about 2 weeks ago, and it's from a girl we worked with, and it'll certainly speak for itself as you take a listen to her.
Since I was younger, I've always been told, sit down, be quiet, you're a child. This has nothing to do with you. But what adults in my family didn't seem to understand is that I have a voice. And what they're talking about most of the time has something to do with me. Then I got older, and it wasn't just sit down, be quiet, you're a child. It was sit down, be quiet, you can't do that. You're a girl. Stay in the back, don't talk. You can't walk down the street because you're a girl, too fragile, too precious. I don't want to stay in the back. I want to be seen. I want to walk down the street and get on the bus all by myself. I'm not fragile and I'm not a girl. I'm a woman. I'm strong and I have the right to be independent just like the men around me. All the men in my family just tried to protect me and I am grateful for that. But I have a right to be free and do things on my own. People might think that I sound ridiculous, but I'm just speaking my truth and I won't be quiet about it. My voice is just as important as his. My education is just as important as his. My life is just as important as his. There were times when my dad let my brother walk to places by himself and didn't let me. I had to go with my brother or my dad himself. And that made me feel sad and angry, especially because I'm older than my brother. Can I go alone? So all the women out there and the young girls becoming women, you have a voice. You have rights and you are just as much a person as all the other men out there. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise. With a commentary for Youth Express, this is Mother Perez.
And the way that came together was simply giving Malila a bit of a challenge to write something that she felt passionate about that would express a feeling she has that she thinks other people need to hear, especially people beyond her own peer group and beyond her own circle. 250 to 500 words, and then a simple recording of it where she put it together. Very powerful, I hope you'll agree, but it didn't take too long for her to prepare it and record it. And our hope is when we create these pieces that it's one thing for Malila to post that on her own social media and have a lot of her existing friends hear it, but our hope is that a much larger group is going to hear it. And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Let's listen to a similar commentary, same format, different subject. And this one was done by a young adult named Jose, who was born in Mexico. His family came to the United States at the age of 5. He just graduated from one of our city's high schools here in Pittsburgh, called Taylor Alderdice High School, and here is Jose. Oh. We also teach kids how to use mixing boards like this one, except most of them do it better than I do. Here is Jose. Let's take a listen.
I wanted to be a soldier. I saw the soldiers create a brotherhood in their dream when I was a kid. I wanted to be a soldier. I saw the soldiers create a brotherhood in their service that you couldn't find anywhere else. I was prepared in high school to join the military when I graduated, but when I went to enlist, I was turned down by the recruiter. There are many students that share the same dream as I do, but end up at this roadblock. Children who immigrate to the U.S. under the Deferred Action for Children Arrivals Policy, or DACA, face restrictions when enlisting for the military service. These restrictions can be subjective, basically loose on recruiting policy. Even though I'm not from the U.S., I still want to serve this country. I get to do a lot of things because of the opportunities the U.S. provides. I am proud to be here. So my dream to join the military had hit a wall. I had to plan for something different after high school. Since I could not serve the country through the military, I found a way to serve people in Pittsburgh through the Heinz Endowment Summer Youth Philanthropy Internship. I was able to select nonprofit organizations in Pittsburgh to provide grants to. I still have hope that with a different administration after the next general election, I can serve in the military, but for now I can do my best to help Pittsburgh. With a commentary for Youth Express, this is Jose Manuel Flores Reyes.
So there is another example of a commentary. If it were up to me, all we would do is feature more voices of youth and more comments for you to listen to. I do want to show you more, but I know that you might be tuned in to hear a little bit more about the methods. In a moment, I'm going to ask John, who's here with me, to speak about classroom methods. Let's talk first about some of the ways we gather this audio. We'll listen to a few more pieces, and then we're going to talk about how we distribute it so that you can maybe use some of the same methods, or so you can tune in and listen. And please know that we're also here for you. You can write to me directly, larry@slbradio.org, larry@slbradio.org, and we can answer any questions or give you any tips. I told you about how the prompt for the piece we did just a moment ago was to simply write a 250 to 500 word essay. That could very well have been classroom writing, where it was already assigned within a classroom and where something can be modified for radio, or it can be done in an informal after-school setting. And we have prompts for that, as well as just everyday exercises that we can do. A lot of it involves the steps of creating trust in the space so that kids feel comfortable actually sharing of themselves. Secondly, giving the kids a chance to kind of just be at one and be themselves, and to talk a little bit to see how their day went or how their day is going. And then if we're doing our jobs right, by taking cues from the youth that are listening, or by very carefully establishing a prompt that we know will be really fun to answer, youth will respond once we give them a little time to think about it and create something that's a lot of fun. One of my favorite prompts might be, tell us about something you made or something you built, or about a prize you won, or about a time you had to speak in front of a lot of people, or can you tell us about one of your earliest childhood memories? There's a lot. John's in the classroom quite a bit, and I'd love for him to come over. And John, I'll play anything that you might want to get played, but he could explain a little bit more about this.
Sure. Hey everybody, I'm John Bentley. I've been here at SLB almost 5 years now, working here in the studio, but also out in classrooms with our wonderful partners. That's a huge thing about Youth Express, is that we rely so much on environments that exist for youth to be comfortable, to be themselves. And our goal is really to be a hub and a sounding board and a resource for students to come and use our facilities. But it's not always possible for students to make it down to the north side in Pittsburgh, where we're located. For those of you that aren't familiar with Pittsburgh, we have a lot of unique challenges. There's a lot of great things about Pittsburgh. One thing that people say about Pittsburgh is that people tend not to cross rivers, which there are 3 of, and lots of bridges. And so sometimes communities are separated in a way that makes it difficult for building empathy in different communities. So oftentimes that means we have to travel and go visit other places. So this big board here in this wonderful studio is great if we can get you here. But this gets the job done too. This is our H4 take this to a lot of classrooms, teach students how to use it. And so there is a lot of STEM work involved when it comes to wave editing and learning how to be an engineer. I think the great thing about the programs that we offer in classrooms is that there are some students who do not necessarily feel comfortable, at least at first, being on the mic or being that person that is under the spotlight. So that's fine, because every good radio show needs an engineer, it needs a producer, and there's a lot of opportunities for people with different skill sets in a classroom across all age ranges to get involved and feel like they're contributing. So sometimes that means we're in after-school settings, but we also have a variety of programs that put us in schools during the day, working and helping teachers to bolster their curriculum and offer something different that maybe not every school has. And so one of the things I wanted to play just a short piece is something that I did with a science teacher at one of our partners at Propel. This is a middle school. We've got a great science teacher over there named Brett Pippins, and the kids just love him, and he's always looking for creative ways to use media. And one of the things that I saw right away was that the kids liked to have fun with media. And you know, when I was in school, you would take notes, and then you would study the notes and try to regurgitate that information on a test. And I think a big part of practicing literacy, but also harnessing knowledge, is to take what you learned and try to teach someone else. And so that's basically what you're doing when you make a recording. And so we started doing these little, I call them STEM shorts. And we're going to play one about photosynthesis.
Hi, my name's EJ Dawson. I'm 14 years old and I go to Propel Montour Middle School.
I'm Bruce Tate, go to Propel Montour Middle School, and I'm 13 years old.
My name is Anaya Hall. I'm 14 years old, and I go to Propel Montour Middle School. I want to talk to you about photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Stage 1 of photosynthesis is capturing the sun's energy. Energy from sunlight is captured by plant leaves. Chlorophyll captures light energy and converts it to a form that is used in the second stage of photosynthesis. Water and chloroplast is split into hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen is used in stage 2.
Stage 2, photosynthesis, using energy to make food. Cells produce sugar powered by the energy captured in stage 1. Hydrogen and carbon dioxide undergo a series of reactions that result in sugars. Oxygen gas is also produced.
Nearly all living things obtain energy either directly or from the energy of the sunlight that is captured during photosynthesis.
The fountain of youth philanthropy.
Well, there you hear it, and it started to go into the next bit after that. So if you're a teacher and are looking for a way to demonstrate mastery, here's a fun way to do it. And if you're a student and want to show what you know, you can do that. And if you're somebody that might need some reinforcement in learning, or maybe you're younger and you want to see what somebody older is learning, or maybe you're a parent and you want to know what your kids might be learning about, there's a simple way to do it, especially if that's in the library of many other topics beyond just photosynthesis, but others. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the recorders that John mentioned. Here's the H4. It's made by a company called Zoom. We're not affiliated with Zoom, but I can tell you we're geeks at heart here, most of us, and we've looked at a lot of digital recorders over the years, and this is a world product, and from our standpoint, it's rugged, it gets the job done, and it's of exceptionally high quality. There's a whole series made by this company called Zoom, and there are others out there, Tascam, Roland. We haven't really seen a cell phone that on its own can get the job done, and students really react well to these devices. They're purpose-built for capturing audio. This one is probably about $250 US. Here's a baby brother that is probably about $60. The neat thing about this is it can take professional microphones. Given some training in how to use these. We put them in cases, we equip them with headphones and other accessories. You can create really high quality audio. You also can invest in things like a mixer and more microphones, and maybe for $1,000 to $2,000 US create something more elaborate. But that's not necessarily the case. I think as long as you have a good, caring adult leading the program and some good philosophies behind it, it'll get the job done.
Yeah, I think so often audio equipment can be a barrier because it's a little intimidating. There's a lot of buttons. And I think the best thing about what we do is while we can teach you how to work stuff, we're more working on developing soft skills that will carry students forward into higher education and in the workforce and beyond, because whether or not you want to be a journalist or an audio engineer, you're going to need to know how to engage people, how to be a good listener, how to listen with intent. Often I've heard Larry say, listen as an editor. So when students are working on those documentaries that are very intense, they learn to listen as editors, which takes quite a bit of training and I think experience. And I think what we're really looking to do when we're in classrooms is help students become better listeners, but also better writers, because I think good writing translates directly into good radio. And speaking of good radio, we do have a Saturday show where we feature youth that we work with in programs. We play a lot of the audio that we get in the field during the 10 to 11 a.m. hour on the show that Larry's been hosting since he was a youth. In high school, I guess you started that show, right?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily intended to be. It's funny how life works, but I became really passionate. I'm glad you brought that up, but I became very passionate about radio when I was maybe 12 or 13. I actually loved it as a young child too, but I was fortunate to have a radio station that was willing to mentor me. And what I really learned as a kid, I didn't feel like I had a whole lot to say, but I mentioned enjoying the technical parts of it, that I could help give voice to others. And using those skills to give voice to others, I began to realize that there weren't many places for youth to express themselves to a larger audience. And that's one thing I want to be sure that we talk to you about today, is how we make sure that these recordings that we make, or live broadcasts that we do, actually reach a large audience. Now, we better do that before I forget.
Sure.
This is unscripted, and it's a way today for us to share you some tips. But again, you can always email us or text us or message us. In this day and age, we can't say that there is one principal method that is going to reach people. There's multiple audiences. So when we produce a piece, such as any of the ones you just heard, there's a number of different ways that that piece is going to reach a broader public. One is on the radio program that John just mentioned, a conventional live FM radio program that airs from 6 until noon Eastern time here in the U.S., and that airs on about 10 different radio stations. Those features will be interwoven as elements within the radio program. Another way is on the website youthexpress.org. There you can look for specific features and listen to them on demand, which for some people will be very appropriate. We've had a number of teachers decide to take a piece and use it to start a professional development training. They'll listen to one piece from a student, play it, and playing it on demand is important in that case, and then they'll talk about it. Also, we have a 24/7 service. In fact, it's here it is. I don't know if we can get a shot of it, but it works on internet radio or on TuneIn or Simple Radio as a listening app on any cell phone available on any platform. And we also have our own Youth Express app. Let me take the plunge here and see if I can get this to play. There it is.
Check it out all the time. Like somebody talk to me or like or whatever. It's something that just became part of my routine, like daily basis. And I realized
and you probably can't see, but this is Aldo, David, and Christopher talking about social media.
So I just grabbed my phone and erased it. We'll take a look right now.
Yeah, those are some students at Berger High School. Berger High School is a local high school with an incredible international population of students who are learning English, and I think that is a huge thing that I enjoy when we get to really help people work on their speaking and listening. And I think we're able to be really flexible both with this space and in schools because our programs aren't one size fits all. We want to help partners and schools accomplish their goals. I think we're able to be really nimble because of our personalities, and with our funders have been very generous and given us a lot of great feedback on our ideas. So shout out to the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundation, the Hillman Foundation, and the 33 Fund.
And the Grable Foundation as well, and Buell for years of support. But we're very grateful, and really to the community. I want to touch back on a couple other things. We talked about those distribution mechanisms. The 24/7 stream is very cool because if you're an adult and if you're just interested and you don't know where to start, but you want to be more in touch with what youth are thinking of, we've partnered with a software company there in Greece, and they help us create this mix of all of the features that we create in a logical way so that you can tune in and listen, whether it be on a device like this, on a telephone, a smartphone, or on a car radio that's connected. It's really easy to listen. And that's one of our goals. It's always been, how do we permeate the ears of a broader public so we can help them understand youth and other voices that often go unheard. And one way to do it is to have a reliable service. And if you're doing chores or paying bills or sitting in traffic, you can listen to it, and before you know it, it gets inside of you and you find yourself wanting to continue listening. So that's important to us. And our Youth Express app on a phone is available on any platform and provides an easy way to listen to. Let's talk about radio in a minute, but first I want to play you just a little bit of a documentary. We have kids do documentaries here, not to create the next group of journalists. We do have kids that have gone on to journalism school or have gone on to do things like that. But our biggest goal here are the things you learn along the way. We're more about process. And when you think about it, doing an audio documentary on a particular subject involves coming up with a topic, pitching it to make sure it's going to work, coming up with people that you can interview, going out and doing the interviews or bringing people into the studio to do the interviews, selecting pieces of those interviews to be featured in the documentary, writing the story that will be illustrated by those pieces you selected, and getting it done in a way that's listenable, that an audience can take in, and that meets a deadline, and working with a partner, meaning that you have to work as a team. Yeah. I'm going to play you a little bit of one, John.
While Larry gets that ready, I just want to encourage everybody to go to youthexpress.org, follow us on Twitter, check out our Facebook. You can sign up for our newsletter, which we send out weekly, and hit us up if you know exceptional youth anywhere. We want to hear about it. We want to grow Youth Express, and our hope is that as students become part of a network of creating media, that they ultimately become better consumers of media. So let's hear what some of them produce.
So let's take a short listen to a documentary. You'll hear an intro followed by the documentary itself.
Getting to the point.
Getting to the point. Voices for a just future.
Safe space means somewhere where I can feel comfortable at.
Just a place everybody can go to, like, to get help, to stay out of trouble and stuff like that.
Somewhere where everybody can be safe.
A safe space is an environment that offers youth access to resources and activities needed for positive life outcomes. It's a physical space for teenagers in the community to socially interact amongst their peers without fear of violence or other negative influences. This is Eliza Foster. The teens you just heard are from Pittsburgh's Homewood neighborhood, a community of 6,408 people, including about 500 youth between the ages of 15 to 19. The community is also home to approximately 20 established youth programs, half of which serve teens, offering enrichment opportunities and gathering places. However, despite the capacity, data shows that many older youth are not active in these programs, with as many as 25% not participating. Catherine Vargas is the executive director of Allegheny Partners for Out of School Time, an organization linking program providers to youth throughout Allegheny County. She explains that one reason for this gap is simply the range of programming for older youth.
Not every young person is going to want to have the same experience after school, and we need to make sure that there's multiple kinds of options.
Older youth often need programs with later operating hours, allowing them to participate while also holding a part-time job or meeting a family obligation. Catherine also points out that programs for older teens often benefit from less structure.
It's not necessarily a program. It's not necessarily like a 4-week experience that, you're signing up for. It's really a place to be, right?
Stephanie Lewis is manager of partnerships and quality improvement at A-Post. She points out that older students also have pressures and constraints of their own.
Another barrier is also just responsibility. So it could be maybe they have to get a job so they can help provide for the family, or maybe they have younger siblings that they have to look after.
And no matter how busy an older teen's life is.
So that gives you a bit of a sense of what can be done. That would have gone on for a couple more minutes. Now, a couple takeaways, because our time has really gone quickly here. I want you to, first of all, something that John had mentioned before about equipment. We have been at this for a long time. We were incorporated as a nonprofit in the year 2000, and my work with radio and SLBs dates back to the 1970s. It's not about the studio and the equipment. That's important, but I can't tell you how many elaborate studios in schools we have visited that aren't being fully utilized, if in use at all. It's really going to take a champion who cares about youth voice and amplifying youth voice, and who develops programs that can work and succeed. That, more than equipment, is going to matter. Again, it's the process that matters more than the stuff. It's nice to have the things, but I think first, getting that programming in place is critical, and we have plenty of ideas to share with you. Second, here we are in a YouTube era with everybody having a very high quality video creation tool in their pocket if you have a smartphone. We do occasionally illustrate the audio. We have some neat ways to do it, but we really believe in focusing on audio, speech, and voice. And here's the reason why. It really requires you to hear the words and the ideas that the person speaking wants to share with you. It also frees you of some of the bias that you might form when considering what the person's race or country of origin or clothing or personal appearance happens to be, or even the setting that that person happens to be in. From the person's standpoint, it can ensure privacy if for some reason the person does not want to come out and reveal their full identity. And it also eliminates some of the barriers to, what do I look like? I can't go on, my hair doesn't look very well. So we believe audio still has a purpose in this world. I don't have to make that argument as much these days because of the flurry of podcasting. There is a Youth Express podcast, by the way, new episodes weekly. I forgot to mention that. But we can give you example after example where audio and radio is still relevant. Our time has been really quick. I want to thank Chad Green for being our videographer today. He also is the person who hosts and publishes our Youth Express podcast. You can find that wherever you look for podcasts. John, thank you. Any closing words?
Well, our slogan at Youth Express is Catch the Future. So I'll just say, Youth Express, catch the future. Thanks for being here.
And this is Larry Berger. On behalf of Remake Learning and HundrED.org and the many practitioners here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA, it's been an honor to share some time with you. And please don't hesitate to keep in touch with us. Thanks.